Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving headfirst into one of the most talked about controversies in recent cinematic history, Disney's live-action Snow White and the surprising decision to pause production on the live-action Rapunzel Tangled remake. I'm your host, and if you're as passionate about Disney magic as you are about behind-the-scenes intrigue, you're in the right place. Now, before we jump into the rabbit hole, or should I say, the enchanted forest, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown on the films and controversies that shape pop culture. Today's discussion doesn't just cover box office numbers and casting drama. We're here to untangle a web of creative choices, financial risks, and public sentiment that have defined what many are calling a turning point for Disney's live-action remakes. For decades, Disney reigned supreme with animated classics that captured hearts worldwide. Over the past 15 years, the studio took a bold leap, remaking its beloved animated films into live-action spectacles. From Beauty and the Beast to The Lion King, these movies not only celebrated nostalgia but also reimagined timeless stories with a modern twist. However, not every adaptation has struck gold. Some ventures have fallen short, and the latest casualty in this trend appears to be the live-action Snow White. When we think back to the heyday of animated features, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs 1937 wasn't just a film, it was a cultural moment. It introduced audiences to magic, wonder, and imaginative storytelling in a way that was revolutionary for its time. Today, Disney hoped to channel that same enchantment with a modern aesthetic, state-of-the-art technologies, and a fresh retelling of the classic tale. Yet, as we've seen in recent weeks, the remake's journey has been anything but smooth. Let's break down the controversies layer by layer. First and foremost, the casting of Snow White ignited a firestorm even before the film hit theaters. Rachel Zegler, known for her breakthrough performance in West Side Story, was chosen to lead the movie as Snow White. However, her casting raised eyebrows, and not just over artistic choices. The controversy stemmed from the fact that the original fairy tale describes Snow White as having skin as white as snow. In June 2021, when Zegler's casting was announced, many longtime fans and critics were quick to point out that, as a Latina actress, she didn't fit that literal description. This wasn't an isolated incident. It followed similar debates that erupted when other actors of color were chosen for roles rooted in classic depictions, much like what later happened with Halle Bailey's casting for The Little Mermaid. The ensuing backlash was mixed. While many praised the progressive reimagining, others were adamant that such a change dilutes the original story's magic. But it wasn't just casting issues that fueled the controversy. As production progressed, creative decisions in the film's storytelling began to raise additional concerns. Critics argued that the film's script and direction shifted too far from the original narrative. In interviews, Rachel Zegler herself described the movie as a modernization that would leave behind some of the classic elements. For instance, the traditional role of the prince and the gentle, demure characteristics of Snow White were radically reinterpreted. Think about it. In a world where audiences cherished the original innocence, altering the very fabric of a beloved character set the stage for a clash between innovation and expectation. Ultimately, this pivot left many fans questioning whether the retooling was a bold statement of empowerment or an unnecessary detour from the source material. Moreover, Disney's attempt to incorporate new musical numbers into Snow White further intensified the debate. New ballads such as Waiting on a Wish and Princess Problems were introduced to provide a modern soundtrack, but critics felt these songs clashed with the film's established tone. Originally, Snow White's character was portrayed as soft-spoken, graceful, and reflective, a stark contrast to the powerful, show-stopping ballads that marked Zegler's performance in these new numbers. Many viewers argued that the new musical choices undermined the character's authenticity and disrupted the delicate balance between homage and reinvention. Let's not forget the visual elements. One of the most striking and criticized aspects was the depiction of the iconic dwarfs. In a daring yet ill-fated attempt, Disney opted to use CGI to animate these characters rather than casting actors from communities with dwarfism. The result? The dwarfs came across as uncanny and off-putting, missing the charm and personality that audiences had associated with the original characters. Not only did this creative direction fail to evoke nostalgia, It instead became a focal point for criticism that questioned Disney's commitment to authentic representation. And then there were the political and social commentaries that found their way into the narrative. Apart from the creative missteps, the public relations side of the project became mired in controversies stemming from statements made by the film's cast. For example, public remarks from both Rachel Zegler and co-star Gal Gadot only stoked the flames. Gadot, who plays the evil queen, made headlines by publicly expressing her support for political causes, while Zegler, in one interview, suggested that the traditional fairy tale role of the prince was outdated, comments that led to yet another wave of heated debate. These statements, taken out of context by some and celebrated by others, further divided the audience. In an era where political and social identities play a significant role in how media is consumed, every word mattered. Now let's talk dollars and cents, the brutal truth that can't be ignored. Despite the massive marketing campaign and high expectations, the live-action Snow White stumbled at the box office. With production costs estimated between $240 to $270 million and worldwide gross earnings of just $146.5 million, the film is projected to face a staggering loss of about $115 million. These numbers are more than just statistics. They represent a tangible shift in audience reception and market dynamics in an age where nostalgia alone isn't enough to drive ticket sales. This colossal financial disappointment didn't occur in a vacuum. Over the past few years, Disney had banked on the success of its live-action remakes to breathe new life into its legacy IPs. However, the downfall of Snow White has sent shockwaves through the industry, forcing the studio to re-examine its strategies. The film's underperformance has raised doubts about the viability of future live-action adaptations, especially as audiences become more discerning and less forgiving of departures from beloved originals. Financial analysts and insiders began questioning whether the formula for remaking animated classics was becoming outdated, particularly when mixed with modern reinterpretations that alienate established fan bases. When a film expected to be a blockbuster turns into a financial quagmire, the ripple effects extend far beyond the studio's balance sheet. The failure of Snow White has already acted as a cautionary tale within Hollywood, prompting several high-profile projects to undergo internal reviews. One of the most immediate consequences was the suspension of plans for the live-action remake of Tangled, a film that promised to reintroduce the charming tale of Rapunzel to a new generation. Industry insiders have revealed that the decision to hit pause on Tangled was a direct response to the financial and critical backlash faced by Snow White. The logic behind this move is simple. If an iconic property like Snow White cannot generate a reliable return on investment, what does that indicate for future projects built on nostalgia and established fan bases? It sends a clear message. Studios must tread carefully when balancing artistic reinterpretations with expectations steeped in decades of beloved history. I'd love to hear what you think about all of this. Do you believe Disney lost its magic with Snow White? Or was it simply an inevitable step in the evolution of storytelling? And what are your thoughts on the halt of the Tangled project? Drop your comments below and let's have a respectful, in-depth discussion about what these changes mean for the future of iconic tales. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more insightful commentary on the latest trends in cinema, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon for notifications on our upcoming videos. Your engagement and thoughtful comments help shape the conversation and remind us why we fell in love with these stories in the first place.